It's important to understand personality because every time you have contact with another human being, you're dealing with their personality. So you're constantly interfacing with personality every day. It affects your life. And so if you can understand it, it makes you more peaceful. Your interactions with other people, the way you navigate the world becomes a easier thing to do. And ultimately, we're all the same. We've all heard that we're all one. We know this somewhere intellectually.
Right.
But until you understand those surface differences and learn to accept them, you never fully understand how we are the same.
Exactly. I mean, in my first marriage, I was so frustrated. I'd been in that relationship for 12 years. And I was under the naive misconception that at some point, you would kind of work things out and you'd become like-minded. And of course, that never happened. And understanding personality types really helped me to see that I wasn't crazy. I mean, there was a reason why, my first wife and I just didn't see eye to eye. I mean, and I didn't get it at the time, though. It was
right.
crazy.
And I really relate to what you're saying because I was the same. I had the same exact situation. I was in a 10-year, pretty tumultuous situation. And I feel like that's part of the reason we even were drawn to each other, because we'd had a similar background. And then what happened for me is I finally found the color code when I was trying to figure out and really work through all the problems in my marriage. I found this book. It's by Taylor Hartman, and it's a pretty easy read, and it just opened up my world. It really changed my life, this one little book. There's a test in the very beginning of the book, and it asks a number of multiple choice questions, and you determine what personality type you are. Exactly. And it was so interesting and so fascinating to find out what motivates me and what motivates other people, and that those things are different.
Right, exactly. I mean, the most fascinating part of the book for me was when after you start to understand your separate personality type, then he takes you into how each one of those personality types relate to one another.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was floored. I mean, when he got to my section that talked about how my ex-wife and I related to one another, just the title alone made my blood run cold. He called it Blood, Sweat, and Tears. And as I read further in that section, it was uncanny, because it was like he was describing my relationship to a T. I couldn't believe how spot on he was with the information. It was nuts.
help when you understand another person's motivations, it helps you to drop the judgment, and it helps you to learn compassion for that other person. Everybody knows somebody that is quiet and amiable and avoids conflict, all that, and we tend to maybe want to judge them for being weak, and it just simply isn't the truth. Right. They value peace.
Right.
So they avoid conflict. It makes sense once you understand that they value peace higher than
conflict or whatever.
It just is such an interesting thing, because then you can learn real compassion for another, and instead of judging them so harshly.
Forgiveness and compassion,
right?
Those are the key factors in having a peaceful life. And and then as you take it even further, take some practice understanding personality types, but then it started to help me understand my long-standing relationships with friends or family members. And I'm an identical twin.
Yeah.
I mean,
you have a very unique view on relationship, don't you?
I do. I mean, we look exactly the same. We had all the same circumstances that, and things that we experienced as we were growing up. And we did almost everything together. But I just couldn't understand. I mean, we were complete opposites, and I didn't get it. I didn't understand, why is he so much different than me? Why does he think so much differently than me? But after I started to understand these differences and see how each person brings something different to the plate, to the table, as far as, in this production of life that we have going on here, then I could start to appreciate those differences rather than, be so resistant and to them and wanting them to change. Everybody wants everybody to be like them, right?
And you get confused. One personality isn't better than another.
Right.
I remember when I first read the book, I kind of thought, oh no, it'd be better if I was that.
Right.
I wish I was that. We always look to the grass is greener across the fence, and it isn't the case. We're all necessary in this mosaic that we call life, and each one of us is born wearing the personality that will best serve the mission that we're here to accomplish.
That's right.
And for an example, if you were born to be the master of industry, let's say, you will probably be born with a more authoritative personality, a fact, an eye to the facts and very no nonsense, that kind of thing. And maybe if you're born to be an artist, you're more sensitive to your surroundings. You live from your heart space a little more. It just makes sense. But what I do know is that we're all born with exactly what we need to accomplish what we've come here to do.
That's right. And then there's another thing that happens is, as we were starting to study personality types and really delve into this information, we began to notice that there seemed to be something missing, because within each personality type, there's these differences that we just couldn't explain. So what we eventually came to realize is that within each personality type, you either play the adult or the child role within the type. And again, one isn't better than another here. This is just simply something, again, that you put on like a shirt, just like your personality type, that explains these differences. And, like as an adult, I'm the child in our marriage, the child type role, and my wife is the adult role in our marriage. And without that, what we also notice is without that balance, things actually seem a little bit more difficult or whatever. The relationships don't even tend to last as long.
Yeah, most of our families and friends and all that have an adult role and a child role represented within the same relationship. So I know that for me, my husband is more adventurous. He's willing to take a leap of faith, and I have learned to appreciate that and to incorporate some of that into my own personality. I'm the more grounded person.
Where my wife is more grounded and more responsible, and that helps, take all my creative ideas and my fantasies and everything and ground them, make them more real world. It's a fantastic.
So it's a benefit to us. And my husband has a great metaphor for that.
Yeah, I always look at it, I love flying kites, I love flying stunt kites, and I always feel like, I'm the kite that's going like crazy, out of control all over the place, and here's my wife holding the strings, and she's keeping me from blasting off into the stratosphere and keeping me grounded, helping me to, and yet I give her that thrill of adventure and everything at the same time while she's sitting there holding the kite.
Yeah, and you do, back to what you were saying about being able to appreciate the differences in personality, that's what's so beautiful, is that we've come to understand that we are different, and instead of fighting against those differences, trying to manipulate each other to become more like us, we do appreciate the differences. I do appreciate the ways in which you have strengths that I do not possess. Right. And they've taught me, and I feel blessed to be on a journey with somebody who understands things I don't understand, who can help school me in those. So
exactly. That is the mosaic of life. We are all here to bring a different part and a role in this whole production that we call life, and learning to see that every single part is important. Every single person's part that they play is as significant as everybody else's is, and you begin to, like I said, really be able to appreciate all of that in there.
But there's one thing that's an even greater factor in the differences in a single personality, or the differences between us, and that is our level of consciousness. So somebody who is highly conscious has a whole different pool of choices to choose from than somebody who's very unconscious. It doesn't mean that person is better than the other person. No thing is better than another. It just means they're at a different place in their journey, and their consciousness level has opened up new choices for them. And they look very different. You could take somebody who's in the same exact personality and he's very unconscious, and then someone who is very highly conscious in the same personality, and they would be completely different people.
Yeah, it actually almost throws you off, because someone's level of consciousness can really make it difficult to determine what type of personality.
Especially if they're super high or super low. If it's in the middle, you can kind of tell, but yeah.
Well, and there's so much to digest here about personality types and everything, that we include them. We include discussion on that in our awakening workshops. in all of our workshops actually. And you can either, if you'd like more information, you can either go to our Awakening Workshops page or you can contact us directly.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.